a beautiful day out just to sit and relax anyways.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. Today I've got Eric with me. He's joining the podcast this morning. We got a lot to talk about, a lot we want to go over, just kind of have fun. We actually went splunking recently, so we're in this massive cave near us, and I don't know, it was a good time. So I figured we'd sit down and talk about that and a bunch of worldly endeavors and stuff we've got going on.
Absolutely.
Eric, introduce yourself.
I'm Eric, and I'm a student of the world. I enjoy a lot of things, and most, I think, highest among them is probably learning about the world in which I find myself. So, yeah, I don't know. I like to theorize about the nature of reality. I like to consider where I am in the great scheme of existence.
Every time we meet up and have a conversation, it seems like it could never end.
Right.
And almost every one of the conversations are about learning and
Right.
growth and like not
Acquiring new
reminiscing on the
knowledge.
past,
Yeah.
but how direct we're going to go moving forward with things. And
Absolutely.
so I guess I've got a couple things I'd like to run by you, see your opinions on them or how you felt, experiences, etc. And I guess one of the first things I'd like to talk about, because it's huge right now, is owning land.
Right.
And so my very first thing to ask is, when you go to look for land, are there certain places you avoid, or are there certain laws and stuff that come into play when you make these types of decisions?
Well, when you're looking at purchasing land, you really have to just look at the contractual agreement that is going to occur between you and the current landowner. So,
And that's the contract between you.
right, for the purchase, you know,
Okay.
because not all purchases are equitable, you know, like they're not all the same, and the terms of the purchases can be different. So if you buy land and the current owner reserves the mineral rights, then you wouldn't have any rights to the minerals on that land, and that can happen. You can own land and still not have the rights to the things that are in it.
And that's like if you were to dig something up or you were to find something on your property, it might not necessarily be yours.
Right. You know, if you struck gold, for instance, on your property, if you don't have the mineral rights, then you can't mine that gold. It's not yours.
Oh, wow.
Anything. I think there's a certain depth of dirt, basically, that you purchase, because you can agriculturally use the land. You know, so I forget the exact number, but there's a certain number of feet down
Where you could farm
that
and
is
still-
yours.
Okay.
You know,
Like they couldn't take your product or your vegetables or your profit from growing on your land.
exactly, but you don't own any of the minerals or like metals that could be found there. Anything below the surface of the land is not
Topsoil, yeah.
yours.
Oh, wow. So you usually take stuff like that into consideration when you go to look for land. Is that statewide? Is that
No, it's like
every state has
contract
their
by
own?
contract, really, like sale by sale. It
So it's
depends.
specifically the contract. Pay
Right.
attention to what you are signing
Exactly,
whenever
yeah,
you go
yeah.
to purchase home. That's huge.
Because like I say, there's plots of land you can buy in Colorado that are dirt cheap. I mean, we're talking like hundreds of dollars an acre. You know, very very cheap. But if you read the fine print of those contracts, it's like you don't own the mineral rights to anything on the land. You can't build on the land. You can't camp on the land. So then it becomes like, well, what did I buy with my deed?
What am I
walking
actually getting?
And now I can walk across this land and say it's mine.
Yeah.
But I don't actually own any rights to do anything with it. And I think that's there are pitfalls out there like that you want to avoid. But it's my firm belief that land ownership is essentially at its most soul level the American dream.
Yeah.
To have a piece of land on which you can do whatever you want is yours. If you want to dig, you can dig. You want to build, you can build. If you want to dynamite, you can dynamite.
Well, see, it's huge because I'm big on geothermal energy, and you have to go so deep in the earth if you want to do stuff like that, greenhouse like that on your property. And say you're digging, you run into something and you may not own it, it can totally,
Right.
take any bit of that contract with that. Like if you didn't take the contract in consideration and you just go into it wildly, like say you find a cave or something on your property, who has rights? Is it public then, or like how would that go?
Right.
Go about having-
I mean, if you have a cave on your property, it gets a little tricky about the openings. Like if you have an opening to a cave on your property, but the cave goes onto another person's property, I believe, and I can't quote myself, or don't quote me on
So
this.
it's something to
but I
look into.
believe that you are allowed to enter that cave and traverse its length, even though inside of it is on somebody else's land. As long as the opening is on your land. Now, if you own a cave, or if you own land that the cave is under, but the opening is on someone else's land, the adverse is not true. You can't
Just go into
yeah.
the infiltrate
there's
their
no
property.
there's no automatic easement for your entrance to the cave. So, technically speaking, you could be charged with trespassing if you went off your land onto somebody else's land near the cave that's on your land.
So would those things tie into like wanting to dig a well on your property? Like I was saying,
Yeah.
geothermal energy. Sometimes you go 8 foot down. Sometimes you go straight down and back up.
Right.
Would it affect like what you could do with that? Like sometimes you have to get like a homeowners association approval to build something on your property.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the mineral rights to your land that you just purchased, would you still be able to do those things, or is there if there's another process, or have you ever looked into something like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have the mineral rights, then you're not allowed to prospect, mine,
It's just how.
do any of that stuff. You could still build on land that you don't own the mineral rights to because, building rests on top of the surface. You could farm it because, like I said, there's like a 6 foot or 12 foot or whatever it is down that you.
Because geothermal, you can do 8 foot deep.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly, but there's a depth you're allowed even if you don't own the mineral rights. And like I say, I believe that provision is in place because of agriculture. People want to have agricultural rights to their land, so they're not going to, even if they reserve the mineral rights, they're not going to disallow you from using the topsoil, basically. But yeah, I think it's super important, man. I don't think that many people get that relationship with the land. Like if you don't own any land anywhere, it's hard to go like, this is my land. I'm responsible for its cultivation, for its maintenance and care. But it's a piece of the earth that belongs to me. That I can do whatever I want to with.
Like actual ownership.
Yeah.
Like you're owning something that.
Right. That's when the forefathers
dream.
came over here
Yeah.
from England. It's like they came from an environment where the king owns all the land, or the crown does, and they grant that land to their different dukes and viscounts and whatever, and then those people who are granted that land have people that rent from them, basically serfs, people that work that land, but really don't own it at all. And that's what they were trying to get away from, was this concept of, and for the religious freedom, can't forget about that. But I think in large part it was to escape this place that they could have no ownership of and go to a place that could be theirs.
Yeah.
That was the original American dream. I think that's still the American dream. But somewhere along the way, we've turned it into the American dream is like, I can go work every day to feed myself, and I have the right to do that.
And that's it.
Yeah, and that's it. And we're proud to have that. And it's like, no, that's not the dream. That's slavery.
Yeah, exactly. So you're currently looking for land. You're currently
Yeah, absolutely.
you and among many of us actually
Yeah.
looking for land right now. I'm going to move into another segment of land and stuff, like say you were to find a creek or something like that in your property.
Right.
I was actually creeking the other day and I stumbled upon this hole inside of a creek.
Right.
And when I walked up to this hole, I've never felt energy like that ever. I've never felt something from the earth like that ever.
Right.
Are there any spots that you've ever gone to when you've gone spelunking, caving, hunting for geos, whatever it is that you've done? Are there any spots that you've like actually felt energy from the earth?
Yeah,
something?
absolutely. Man, usually for me it'll be around bodies of water, big or small. Like I've had the experience in lakes, at a lake, on the bank of a lake, just feel
like
that,
outside, like not even on it, just
right.
anywhere.
I think I don't know if it's something about me personally, or I'm sure there's lots of people like this, but I most readily feel the tug of the earth's energy around large bodies of water, and it's like, or moving bodies of water, creeks, rivers, whatever. I've had that, like, it's almost a spiritual experience of connection to the earth when you're just in that place and you can feel that motion. And in the case of like the ocean or big lakes, there's a tug, pull, that it's like attracts like. And I think it's important to remember that humans are 70% water. So, the water pulls us. It naturally does, on a molecular level probably. So, yeah, I think that's where I've always felt that power in the earth, and at the solar eclipse. That was,
man, I felt so much
2017.
in the solar eclipse.
Yeah.
Some feelings and stuff I've never, very intuitive. It was crazy.
Right.
We went to the beach, speaking of big bodies of water, not too long ago, me and my girl and my family. And when we were out there, we went real late at night at the ocean.
Right.
And what I felt that whole time that I was there is something I'd never felt either. And I didn't realize or recognize the two, like I did the earth the other day in the creek, how much of a somewhat similar feeling it was, because it was out of the normal. It was something that was
Right.
just I didn't expect to feel it, and we both felt the same thing too, you know, at the same time. So it was cool, you know, that more than one, all of us can feel this, you know.
Right.
It's really
I
powerful.
think, you know, I've had some of my most profound experiences in connection with the earth, like honestly eating mushrooms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, when I was at the 2017 eclipse, right? We were in the path of totality in Gallatin, Tennessee, right?
I was on the roof of a house. I remember.
Right. I was in a field in Gallatin at the Earth ship. I don't know if you know what that is.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And I had eaten a bunch of mushrooms, and it was one of the most incredible, eye-opening experiences of my entire life. I think I felt the cogs of the world slip into place. Boom.
That's so wild.
And you know, the universe like made a cycle and began another one, and I was there and I saw it. It was beautiful. I mean, just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, they say your psyche really gets connected
Right.
through those ways.
Which I think you know, it's
Is that why people are so adventurous with it? You would say why it's
Well,
they
I
go
don't-
hand in hand. I guess it's very
maybe
spiritual.
So. Yeah, it is very spiritual. It I don't know. I always feel like it has helped me personally. Now, I mean, I can't speak to everyone's experience, but for me personally, it's always helped me feel very connected to the earth, and like I feel my part in the whole cycle of
I feel
everything.
appreciation for it. I
Right.
feel like it appreciates me too. Like
Yeah.
we both have that same type of understanding.
Which yeah, it's. I mean, I believe that humans understand things through contrast. You know, like we know what hot is because we know what cold is. You know, we know what light is because we know what dark is. We
learn
use
to
these
grow.
comparisons to understand our reality, right?
Yeah.
And so, I lost my train of thought right there.
You said people they look at life with one contrast. You know?
Right. Oh yeah, to create contrast. Exactly. Thank you. To create contrast,
I think
it's
about
like
this a lot.
when you see the world one way and you have no contrast for that view, it's hard to even understand what that view is. But when you create a contrast for that, you know, in this event with a spiritual psychedelic event, you know, that you brought on with mushrooms, it deepens your understanding of the actual thing that you just compared it with, you know, so that it becomes, it's not just about what you can learn, you know, in an
Is that
altered
related
state.
to like your third eye, like
Uh,
being able to see stuff in more perceptions?
Well, I mean,
perspectives. I mean,
to some degree, I mean, you could take the third eye as you know, some people believe that there's a literal spiritual eye, you know, in their mind, right? And maybe that's the case. Or it could just be that it is a third type of vision, an internal vision. You know, I always kind of think of it like your eyes look out of your head this way, and your mind looks into your head that way, at your deeper parts of yourself. You know, for your self-awareness and your understanding of who you are, is what I think the third eye is most aptly used for, I guess.
Yeah.
Not to say that you can't, you know, see the future with it,
or use it like
Or use it
unlocking
in a-
more of your brain,
Yeah.
or like meditating and working on it.
Yeah, I think but it is somewhat conceptual. You know, like obviously we know from biology there's not a literal eye in your head. You know,
Yeah.
that blinks or anything. So,
Well, it's just like morals from the Bible or other religions and stuff. It's how you can feel from it, what
Right.
you can take out of it. You know,
right, exactly. I mean, that's pretty much all information is that way. You know, how can you apply that to your understanding of reality or your life or whatever?
so do you think somebody who's never done any type of psychedelics or anything like that could tap into that
Absolutely.
that type of
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
my favorite ways are tying into like the earth or feeling energy from the world or other types of energies you don't normally see that are just black and white.
All right, so just sticking with the example of the mushrooms, okay? When you eat mushrooms have a chemical called psilocybin, right? But psilocybin doesn't make you trip. When you eat the psilocybin, excuse me, your body turns that into psilocin. Wait a minute, maybe I'm saying that backwards.
No, you said it right.
Okay. Yeah, your body turns that into psilocin, and that psilocin is what makes you have those hallucinations. And that's something your body made. Like, as a reaction to an outside thing, yes, but you produce that on your own.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something that's in that
Yeah.
substance.
That's
So,
what.
So
like to
yeah, I
focus
think
on.
it's important to note that you can absolutely have those
Yeah.
experiences without that at all. Your body's capable of producing that scenario or that secret, you know, that chemical status to make you enter that whatever
Yeah.
realm of vision or thought, I guess.
See, I'm really wanting people to see and know that. And I think, like we're talking all the time with the growth and knowledge and learning and stuff like that, they'll be able to see that without having to experience anything that they may deem bad or society may deem bad or whatever.
Right.
Because nothing's good in an abundance.
Well, I think
That's
it's-
just like how it is. But for people to be able to be aware and enlightened of that, I think that'll help ultimately us as humans be able to unlock more of our brains and be able to communicate better and teach each other better with
Right.
the internet, without the internet, and
Which
all
that's
the way
basically
around.
the the stone monkey theory is that's a lot of people believe that that's how we gained our level of intelligence is by eating wild mushrooms that
Yeah.
got us that got the monkey stoned, and then they figured out more stuff because their understanding of their world deepened through contrast.
Yeah,
You know,
fungal makes up like the majority of our Earth.
yeah.
It's crazy. It's like
Yeah, there's
an entire living
I don't know if
being
you've
on
ever
our Earth.
watched on Netflix the Fantastic Fungi is what he calls it. Paul Stamets' little show that he does.
I've seen
It's
parts of it.
fantastic,
It's
man.
definitely worth checking out, looking into, seeing how that goes.
Yeah. But yeah,
Definitely
I think, that there's,
explains
I think
a lot
there's a
of-
lot of really good stuff going on in the medical world right now with that, where they're testing with cancer patients and stuff like that, and they're finding that the positive results like far and away outweigh any very small minor negative impacts that they've shown in their
Yeah.
studies. So it's like,
It's kind of like why I'm on my journey I'm on right now, about the positivity thing, and to be able to show people this and how strong it is, and how much like projecting those types of things out in the world literally can heal and do miracles.
which and I don't,
and that's
like we'll say I don't wouldn't say that I eat mushrooms all the time. You know, like I said, I did in 2017,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that was the last time I did. You
Yeah.
know, it's been quite a number of years, but that's the thing with it. It's so impactful and so powerful.
yeah.
that you
These
just don't- that
journeys
you don't
get
need
us to
to.
where we
Yeah.
can see it. These experiences and this growth. That's what gets us to be able to understand.
Right.
What it is we're even talking about right now.
Absolutely.
Not saying or encouraging anybody to go out and have to do that.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
no.
encouraging that there are ways to achieve these things and that other part of your mind, and it actually be beneficial to your life, whether you believe or don't believe. Whenever you're doing it, like
Right.
if you do believe and you put your energy and soul into it and your psyche and everything, you can actually open up your mind and actually have true growth.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things I would point out also is that when I mentioned that, I'm just that was my path. I took that path to get there. There's a lot of paths to get everywhere.
Yeah.
Wherever you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
get to, there's a path.
Yeah.
That works for
Teach
you.
their own.
That's not that will be beneficial to you and not fraught with horrors. So it's like when I talk about stuff like that, I wouldn't want anybody to think
We
that
we
that's-
need those paths because that shows that's that information. That's an encyclopedia. That's that type
Right.
of knowledge that shows people through human experiences that you can go down, you can go up, and you can go down.
Oh,
but
yeah, there's-
you always have that choice to be what's happening now and going forward.
Right.
And that's where it's so, man. Life is so calm right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
not as hectic and not as tense because I'm trying to wake up, and I think
which is crazy when you think the world right now is berserk.
Yeah.
Like
Buzzing, man. It's
there's
constant.
war. There's
Yeah,
everything's
everything's
chaos
there.
everywhere. It seems like, but you can still be chill about it because it's like,
Yeah.
I touched the source. I know.
Do we even know the last time we have talked?
I don't actually.
Years.
Yeah.
But we both had such sporadic, crazy stories in similar towns.
Right.
And it's so different, and we're able to come back and reconnect and be like, hey, yeah, now I don't want to do that shit.
Right,
Now I want to do what I can now and take every bit of what I can about it and like educate people or have good times and laugh and
Or
and
educate,
live, man.
or educate myself.
And educate yourself.
Which is what I think what I come to is finding this place where my interest runs more towards discovering my world and what I can do with it, what it has there available for me, and
Opportunities.
yeah, and so it's like, I think here lately my big focus has been sourcing, right?
Yeah.
So I always am interested in how to make anything,
Yes.
I make my own bow,
Yes.
I build the stuff, and I have a history in building, and I paint, I do art, whatever. I'm interested in everything.
So we'll have to show some of it off.
yeah,
We'll come back to that.
yeah. So it's I think
It's
that
actually really cool.
I came to this point though where I was like, okay, I can do all this stuff, but I still rely on, Lowe's or whatever to give me
Yep.
the nails and the hammer. And
Google for simple, quick knowledge.
yeah, or Google to YouTube to
Yep.
get all the knowledge that I want right there available to me. Oh, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. Like I say, I started doing smelting a little bit, melting metals and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and I had to Google to find out, what temperature does lead melt at? What temperature does aluminum melt at? What temperature does copper melt at? And so
But
on
don't
and so
you
forth.
do it out of your backyard over fire?
Yeah, yeah.
As
yeah.
in like the simplest like stone and
Yeah,
stick
Well, it's basically, I tell you, I did use, the most high-tech element that I used was the shop vac that I used to supercharge it with air. Yeah.
Hey, ingenuity.
Right.
At its finest.
So basically,
Back to Lowe's.
I just took a double wall of corrugated steel, which I'd found on the side of the road somewhere.
Free.
Cut,
Free as can be.
Cut 2 strips out of it, made 2 circles, right?
Yeah.
Positioned them one inside the other one.
Went to your neighbor's
Concentric.
shed, unscrewed a couple screws so you get the screws for free.
Yeah, right. And well, I've got a pile of screws I've kept from times in my life. But
Every man does.
pinned them together and filled it with mortar mix that I'd gotten from some job that was left over. All free stuff. Put a pipe in there to hold the hole open, and then
So like a piece of conduit, like a shell or a mold.
Yeah.
A molded hole.
yeah, exactly. Just stuck it in there while it was setting, so it would have a hole for the oxygen, and then I piped it in from the spec and fueled it with woods or coal.
And you have a way of checking the temperature on it?
Well, yeah, I do.
What's the hottest temperature you've got in your backyard with just like a standard fire in a shop?
It's about 2,000 degrees. 2,000 degrees is what it takes to melt copper, and I have made copper molten in that forge with just some wood and a shop vac, basically.
And so that drives you to want to find out.
Yeah.
What,
Well, I like to.
What does that trigger in your brain as far as growth? And
Well, it makes me think. If I can melt a metal, then I can probably refine that metal out of ore, also. So
refining
that means,
it. Well,
So that means, like, if the world went crazy and we lost our connection to everything, and
solar
industry
EMPs, EMPs,
ended
stuff
or
you're telling me
something,
about.
and if you wanted to have a metal, a stock metal, like, where would you go? You can't go buy it anymore.
Yeah.
How are you going to get it?
See, I'm big on this. You would go to my boy Eric's house and you would go pick up the metals you wanted to have.
Right. So my interest became, how would I find these metals?
Yeah.
If I wanted to find copper, how would I find it? What would it look like? And how would I turn it into a usable copper?
Yeah, what are its states? Liquid,
Right. Well, the copper
Temperatures
ore,
I need.
it's curious. Where's that little bucket at? I'll show you in a minute. But it's curious that when you look at ores, it's like they're very commonplace looking.
I'll grab it for you.
Rocks, and they have usually some significant color will tell you what some of the metals are. For instance, copper ore is green, where the same way copper turns green as it ages.
Yeah.
Verdigris, I believe they call that. Verdigris, whatever. But yeah, this is an example of what I believe to be a ore-bearing rock, and I'll show you. They kind of have a little bit of a greenish color, sort of greenish gray, I would say. But at the beginning of this vein, and I think you can see a little bit right on the end of that there. If you can hold that up and show, it's the little silver glimmer on there, leading up into that stone was this. Oh, where's it at? There we go.
It's
Flaky, metallic flecks.
Came off of that stone.
Right, out of a quartz vein. So it was basically between two pieces of bedrock. There's a quartz vein running through there, which opened up into a pocket that had all kinds of clear points, crystal quartz in there. And then as it went down past that crack in the bedrock, those flecks started to come out. And then I kept digging, and I found those rocks, which those are gray-green rocks. They were just a slightly different color from everything else around them, and they were leading off of that flecky vein of metallic stuff. So I'm not sure exactly what that is yet. I haven't tried to smelt it, but I figure, based on where I was, it's probably either lead, silver, or zinc.
Yeah. But through like refining and stuff like that, it's triggered you wanting to find out like the different consistencies, or like
Right.
you don't ever
And
really
well,
know.
You do want to know, how do I know how hot my fire got? I know how hot my fire got because I know what metal melted in there. So basically, if you know what metal or what temperature a metal melts at, then you can keep making your fire hotter and hotter until that metal melts, and you'll know that's how hot you got.
What's a safe way to increase it even more?
Well, you can. A lot of people use propane and oxygen mixtures for forges. And I've got a setup like that I'm going to try pretty soon. But the first one I did was just, raw fuel like coal and little blocks of wood, that I would throw in there to feed it. The coal got me a little bit hotter. I had to do the coal to get the 2,000 degrees. I couldn't get that high off of just wood. Like if I fuel my forge with wood, I can melt aluminum. I mean, you can melt lead with a propane torch. It's 600 degrees. That's nothing. But aluminum's at 1,200 degrees, and I could do that with wood and that shop vac. To get up to that 2,000, I had to go collect coal, which I just went to the railroad tracks with a 5-gallon bucket and picked it up until my bucket was full and came home.
Yeah.
You know, most of the stuff you need out in the
Don't
world
do
is
that.
out there.
Don't
It's,
go do that. That's probably get in another source.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's
No, but the
strictly
importance.
speaking, I don't think you're not supposed to be on the railroad tracks collecting rocks or coal, but you know, people do. So
Addresses aren't available, so we're no. It's experimental purposes only, and I think it's actually very important for people to learn and want to learn more, and to
Right.
have that drive to learn more. I don't think you need to have that drive to do stuff you shouldn't. Everybody knows that.
Right.
But I mean, you do definitely. I think that drive is what's going to get it to where everyone has their own ability
Mm-hmm.
and has something they're good at. And so, like, if this world was to fall and things were to pop off, like we all kind of see happening,
Yeah.
we all have somebody staying connected. We have somebody we know that we can go to that we can actually do it without.
Right.
Without
Well, I mean, that's
all
the
those
thing is,
outsources.
you know, that actually touches on one of my core beliefs, which is that
Trade and barter.
that humanity
one of mine.
is
Sorry.
that we aren't human. You know,
Say it
humanity,
again.
we're not human. Human is what we all are together. You and I are individuals, but we're not human. Human is what we all are together.
Because we coexist and respect each other.
Well, I think
Or try
no,
to.
more than that. I think that humanity is a single organism. You know, like we're all. So you think of your body as an organism, right?
Yeah.
It's a system of organisms, whatever, however you say that. But it all works together, right? Like the heart pumps the blood, the lungs do the oxygen, you know, the muscles move the thing, and the bones hold it up. Like it all works together, right? Whenever your body stops working together and starts competing, you know, like some cells grow faster than others, and then the other ones go, oh, we're going to kill you. We call that cancer. But when the human organism does that, we call that war. So it's like, and that war extends to markets, you know, to the financial market. It extends
Money.
to housing. It extends to killing each other.
Yep.
It's war is the competition with each other for dominance,
The
space,
fight for gold.
wealth,
Yeah.
whatever you want, whichever one you want. And I
Control
think
power.
that if you really look at it, you know, and there's been some guys that have talked about stuff like this. You know, there's all kinds of great content on YouTube you can find about this sort of thing. But if you look at it, if we were working cooperatively instead of competitively, you know, like we make enough food to feed everybody.
Absolutely, man.
Nobody'd have to starve. You know,
I believe it should be a tax that we all have to grow something.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, it's
give
just-
it to this.
but even if you didn't do that, you know, just if you just imagine that instead of having competing markets, you know, if we all worked in a contributory fashion, cooperatively with each other, like Lord, we probably would have already colonized Mars or something, you know,
There's no telling.
because what's the most limiting factor for anything that we do? Money.
Money.
You know, oh, I don't have enough money to do that. I can't build that. No, it's
It's
cost too much.
self-destruction. You know.
And so it's like, you know, we look at the system and we go like, well, money is how we do everything. You know, that's how you pay for stuff to do it. But no, it's not really. Money is how you don't do stuff.
Yep.
You know, it makes cost becomes that inhibiting factor to stop you from doing stuff that people could otherwise do. You
Yeah.
know, like money doesn't build bridges. It doesn't.
No, you gotta have people. You gotta have blood and sweat and all that
Yeah,
stuff to
people
do it, man.
build, you know, people in
Humans.
concrete build bridges.
Yeah.
There's no money in there.
Yeah.
They do not put money in the foundations.
It's usually
There's
not
no
one
money in the
person either.
Yeah,
It's
there's-
usually a group.
Right, exactly, and that was leading into my point. There was that communally, you know, we would come. I think in a, like you're saying, in a end of world event or some, you know, cataclysmic market crash or whatever, where you know, if a solar flare EMPs and knocks out our technology, we would still pull together. And so your talents and my talents become one again when we work together, when we act as a society, when we work as an organism cooperatively.
Yeah.
You know, and so it would be that way that we would be able to retain any of the knowledge that we currently have stashed on the internet, you know, which is a fragile thing to have all your knowledge stored on, you know, like,
Yeah, that totally.
like you say, I mean, one good solar flare and that
All that
whole
knowledge
thing
is
is
gone.
gone.
Lost it.
And then there you are, you know, where normally you would look to Google, you know,
Trying to figure out how hot you want your.
to figure out how
Yeah,
hot you
you
want
need
your
your stuff to
copper,
be,
and all of a sudden now you can't look at Google and have it tell you that you need to get that fire to 2,000 degrees, and so there's a massive loss of knowledge that, we have this proxy knowledge now where you can know almost anything with a quick search, right?
Yeah.
Especially anything practical, the practical application, use of, execution of a task, whatever, all that stuff's on there recorded. You can just look it up how to do it. And if that goes away, man, that there's a huge dearth of knowledge that's created in mankind, where we have come to rely on that digital memory to go, well, I don't have to know this stuff. I mean, like, when's the last time you tried to drive somewhere without a GPS?
I've actually been doing that a lot.
Right.
Like I'm disconnected. It gives me hope to hear someone else even is aware of things like that.
Oh man,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
listen, I got in my, I was out in my truck one day.
it's so
and
ironic we use the internet to do what we're
my
doing now, but I
phone-
want people to hear this.
my phone, which has a service that I pay each time, or it cuts off, right? So I don't pay it monthly. I pay it when it runs out, and it ran out, and I didn't have the money to get it right then. And I was like, here I am out in the middle of nowhere. I got no GPS,
None
no
of us
cell
are
phone
having the
connection.
money.
And dude, I panicked. I was like, how do I get anywhere? I don't know where I'm even at. Like, and I had this moment of like, wait, I have to remember how to
Yeah.
navigate in the world without this thing that remembers all the roads for me. Like,
I'm
and it was,
still there when my GPS goes down and I'm driving. I hit one of these
yeah,
Modoc towns or something I'm in.
right.
I'm like, all right.
Yeah, no,
It just went out on me. What do I do?
But when I had that realization, I started trying to be much more aware of like where I am, where I'm going, and remembering how to navigate in the world without that.
Yeah, man. Awareness and growth, man.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing, man. It helps me smile,
Right.
It helps
right.
me stay focused and stay positive and stay on this drive that I'm on now. That I'm trying to promote and help other people be on the
Right.
same drive, dude. And
Well, I'll tell you, the less dependent,
really appreciate you coming out.
the less dependent you feel on, others
Internet,
for your survival or
anybody.
your comfort, the more I find, the more happy in the world I am, the less I depend on someone else to provide me with my comfort and happiness.
Yeah.
Because it's out there. You can get it for yourself.
Yeah.
It's not something you can buy.
It's crazy
but
you
it is
say
something
that.
you can create.
Check this out. My last podcast, I did the solo one.
Uh-huh.
It was 33 minutes and 36 seconds.
Mhm.
Well, 333 is some type of thing I saw online. I went and looked it up, and the message on it, it's on the description, but it's talking about you just like need yourself.
Right.
It's the world showing you that you just need you
Yeah.
to achieve the things you do, and you should never have to rely on other people.
Well, I think that the number 3 represents completion in a lot of ways in our reality. If you think about
Like a
the
whole
way,
or something, or like a triangle.
well,
What do you mean?
all right, this is going to get a little crazy here, but
Do we dive
so
into it?
So yeah, let's do it. Screw it. So I think that one of my favorite things to think about is the nature of the reality in which I find myself, and I think that in a lot of ways that nature can be understood through how we perceive it, right? So I started looking at what does reality consist of, and one of the things that I've identified, in my opinion, in reality is what I call binaries. So a binary is a thing that's two different things, or seems to be two different things, but in actuality is the same thing. Like hot and cold, those seem to be opposite things, but really they're just two ends of the same thing.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
got
the
this
range
depth,
of
that's got
temperature.
this depth,
And so it's like, and a lot of our reality is like that with binaries, and they have two polar ends, and then the in between, 3, which is past, present, future. That's the 3 of a completed view of time, like as far as we're concerned. And everything is like that. It's two extremes in the middle is how we understand reality. That's how we interact with reality on our most basic level, is with these binaries, right? Then there are other things in reality that I call constants. Okay, a constant is something like balance that has no opposite. Like, is in everything we see in the world, there's balance. In the universe, everything we've observed has a balance. And even if something
way to
seems
balance it
out of
out.
balance, if you look at it across a larger scale of time, it balances. Yeah, everything is self-balancing. Balance is everywhere. And I don't think there's any counter for it. There's no opposite to balance. Because imbalance just becomes balance in our world, in our reality.
So would that tie to perfect and imperfect in any way?
Well, no, I mean,
Or-
I think that imperfect is a made-up word, I think, that doesn't really exist.
Man-made
Like,
or human-made?
yeah, well, it's subjective. If you think of, there are several words, I believe, that we use incorrectly, like random, chaos. In our generalized current understanding of these terms is that, like, it's a a loss of order or a devolution into chaos or entropy, all these things, right? But I think that that's just not the case. Like, I don't know. I lost my track there just a little bit.
Well, we were talking about threes and everything being in circles and
Right.
balance. And
yeah.
then you said that there were certain words that we use that humans make that are kind of like chaos and stuff.
Right. There's no such thing as random.
Yeah.
Like everything
Right.
in our reality is reactive, right? So, that's Isaac Newton, I think, was the one that talked about that. For every action, there's
an equal opposing reaction.
Right, and that represents like this pervasive balance, right? But I think when you look at a term like random, what are we really saying? Like, we're really saying there's a pattern here that's too complex for us to understand, and that's what it really means.
That's what we're labeling this.
Right. It's but we say like, oh, it's random. There's no pattern. There's no order to it. But that's not true. There is a pattern. There is order to it. We just don't understand it. And so that word random really describes our ignorance more than any prevailing law of the universe. And I think that's important to note because when you look at the world like that, if everything has an order, if everything's reactive and it is a sequence that follows, then you can't. There's no point in worrying about. There's no chaos.
Yeah.
There is no chaos.
Yeah.
So why would you worry about some chaotic future that you're worried about?
Or your chaotic past
Right.
that has been changing every bit of what's happening now going forward.
And I think if you recognize the order in everything, you more readily predict what that order will be because you expect to see it. Whereas if you expect chaos from the world, then chaos is what you'll find.
Yeah, projections, man. Projections all day.
Yeah.
It seems now so much easier because the outcome is positive every time I just do something and I do it positive and I project that straight stream of like, hey, it is endless of possibilities. And if I just go for it, any of them can happen.
Right.
Anytime I've ever looked at it in that opposite direction, I've only literally visualized those chaotic things, and that's how my life has panned out.
Right.
And so,
Which, I mean, you could even go a step further and say that, there are theories out there. This is not my theory per se, but it's, where we have these bifurcations of choice. So like
bifurcations?
So a choice happens, and then you go this way, right? Say you could go left or you could go right, and you go left. There is a line of thought that believes that you also go right, and so every choice you make basically thickens the skein of reality, that web of
what
dimensions
be,
and realities or whatever, which is an interesting thing to think about. I've got some anecdotal stories I could tell about some of that stuff. Maybe that'll be for another time.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to have you back out for sure. This is
No,
this is awesome.
I definitely will.
So, out of all of that, what are some key points you think people need to hear or know or take from it that might help them? Because we've all been through enough now,
Right.
to know what's up on that side of life, losing people and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What are beneficial ways to these experiences? What ties into what you said to everything that people could use to feel better or have a better way of living for themselves?
All right. Well, look at what Nikola Tesla said, that the earth rings like a bell. That was his main concept with how he harnessed this random energy, right?
He says it's in the air.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
actually
everywhere.
somewhat familiar.
It's everywhere. The earth is constantly energetic. It's an object in motion, so motion produces.
I get shocked every piece of metal I touch,
Right.
so it's a little annoying.
And not just electrical power though, although that is electricity does seem to be like one of the physical manifestations of that power that the earth has. But the earth is chock full of power of all kinds. Kinetic power, thermal power. Like it's there, and you can touch it, and it's. I get lost in these. I go divulge.
Yeah.
Or no,
Diverge.
yeah, diverge.
What can they use from it? What is like, I guess, a good moral to put you on the spot to see
Yeah.
what you have to throw at them? Like,
Well, okay, so if I was going to say what I think of the best moral standpoint is touching back on not being a human, like just being an individual within the human, and recognizing that the people around you are they're you,
Yeah,
you're them,
we're them, yes.
and your effects ripple away, or effects ripple off of you in such a major way that you don't even realize.
Yep.
You can be in traffic and honk and yell and create negativity in that, and it will spread through that whole line of traffic, over the course of a couple of days even.
Yeah.
Just you driving frustrated. Or you can do the opposite, and
So-
be patient, let folks in,
Be
and,
more cognitive.
And
of
you
it.
can watch those effects happen in your world.
Yeah.
Like if you just recognize that you're a part of them.
Imagine a world like where it's all liquid or whatever, and we're not sitting there splashing all the time, man. We're
Right.
not sitting there, the guy right next to you, woman right next to you, sitting there splashing, messing up there. They've already got it. We all got to get in that water.
Right.
So why don't we get into
Share
it a
that
little bit
space.
easier?
Yeah, share that
so
space and
coexist maybe, or
Yeah, coexist
exist
absolutely.
exist
Look,
from afar, but
I would
within
say
each other.
even beyond that though, look to how can you help the folks around you?
Yeah, giving.
You know what I mean? If
I'm
it's,
so big on giving, man. It's so
sometimes
important.
helping just staying out of their way, whatever.
You
But
can't get a better paycheck than whenever you do that. You
Right.
like seriously, I never have. Like,
right,
all the
well,
money
helping
I've ever
people,
had,
yeah.
nothing, my biggest paycheck ever, man, is never compared to some of the best moments.
Which this is a thing that I don't recommend for people, but I do it all the time. Is I just do stuff for free for
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
I'll build
Why,
things.
why
and,
would you say not to recommend it?
Well, because you'll be poor.
Well, how a lot of us are,
Right. Yeah.
and so
Well, it's difficult to not be poor when you give your labor away for free.
do you really feel poor?
but I do love
Do you
giving it.
feel poor though, knowing that you've given? Looking back on your time and things, how poor do you actually feel, or do you feel
Right.
like
No,
your life
you're
is
right.
wholesome and rich?
You're absolutely right. Financially, you won't gain, but
finances
spiritually
don't
you
go
will.
with you.
Yeah, spiritually, you will gain a lot from helping people and
It's
being just
what
giving.
kickstarted. It's what kickstarted everything I'm trying to do and wanting to do. And people like you and Diana, thank you for letting us use your place. We really appreciate it. The world just coming together. We're at our buddy's neighbor, and she told us we could film here when she was nice about it. So we're
Yeah.
giving her a shout out now.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us and everything. But that's definitely what kickstarted me, man, to do a lot of this stuff and to reach back and touch back with you and to see you with such positive energy, man.
Right.
I haven't seen you this positive since I think you were like 20 years old. I was a little kid,
Right.
and it's cool. And I don't like to reminisce on the past, but I do like to take the past and my wholesome self and how I was in the past and carry those traits now and be like, hey, that was me, man.
Right.
All this chaos
Yeah.
and stuff that you spoke of in the middle,
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
that diverted me and diverged me into this. And as long as you just keep going and keep fighting, I think there is a chance. I think if we do, that's cool you said that about the humans because I've never heard that.
Right.
And people need to hear that. I think if we coexist and are more cognitive
Yeah.
and learn that ignorance is okay and patience is stronger than ignorance, I think we might have a chance to fight and
Absolutely.
keep going.
Yeah.
So, aside of all the major stuff, I've been wanting to ask you,
Mhm.
do you have a near-death experience that's non-negative related, like an adventure experience that you would like to share?
No, I don't think. Actually, I've been
Maybe not near death, but maybe more or less getting over fear, self fears, because
Yeah.
fear is what is driving a lot of humans to not give,
Right.
to look at money over giving and stuff like that.
Right.
Is
Right.
there any adventure you've been on that has like totally broken your will, or something that you would be like, okay, when I hit this, I realized who I was after, or it's something to me forever.
Well, I mean, I think there's so much of my life has been that way that it's I'd be hard pressed to pick a time, because it's been time after time after time.
Time
The universe,
after time.
the universe has broken me and brought me back with a new understanding of everything. So it's like,
Life as a whole, maybe.
yeah,
Might be
life
that
is
thing.
that adventure to me.
Yeah.
I think where, and I'm like say, I mean, I could probably tell 100 stories
Yeah.
of times that I was near death, that I maybe in a couple times I did die, depending on what you.
But
you
you
know.
know who was there and brought you back.
Right, but yeah, no, I think all of life has been that adventure for me to continually be, have
Just live.
to sometimes be smacked down by the universe, only to rise up again and understand deeply, or more deeply, the
What
world
it's
I find myself in and how I fit there.
Yeah.
What connection I have to it, and that it's an impermanent thing and a permanent thing at the same time.
Do you feel like you have a purpose? Like you're part of a leg of a chair, or do you feel like you didn't have a purpose at one point and you have found that, or any of that at all? Or?
I never was too concerned with what my purpose was. Well, that's not true strictly. I've
think
always
we
been
all, no
concerned
matter
with what my
yeah.
purpose is.
Yeah, I
But-
think that's a huge question.
But
for
I
us all.
did come to the point where I realized that my purpose is to fit into this universe and be part of it.
And know what we know.
And
what we're
however
talking
that
about.
plays out, I accept that. That's fine. I like the idea that I don't try too hard to force any one reality to happen. I just ride with it.
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Just live.
Yeah, take the opportunities that are given.
Yeah.
You know,
See, I don't
some
like-
of some of this stuff was found. Like say this, for instance, came out of a creek. Yeah, you can hold that up there. Came out of a creek in Arkansas, and you know, I just to get that, all I had to do was be aware and be willing to put my hands in the mud. You know,
Literally
pulled
found
out
in a
those.
creek.
Yeah, pulled those out of the creek bedrock.
But taking opportunity, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And
look-
see, I used to feel like I was always lucky.
Well-
and I see now that I think it's like I just had an abundance of opportunities, and I've walked into them.
Well,
and
do you know
that's-
why that? I think why that is when you change your life, right, from the point where you are inwardly focused, you know, everything that you're thinking about is about you and how you're getting for you and doing for you and
Me, man.
right.
I hate it.
And when you're like that, you can't see anything outside of yourself. You miss all these opportunities because you're not looking. You know, it's when you turn your focus outward and you look at how can we help people wherever, and suddenly you'll realize, oh man, there's all these opportunities around. I didn't need this before.
I always feel like I was chained down,
Mhm.
and I feel like whenever I stepped out of that, all those chains started going away. When I
Right.
started looking outward and seeing how I could actually help people, actually relating with people, doing stuff for free,
Yeah.
and just being that in a whole, that's literally like just taking all these chains, these demons, and just totally gotten away from them. Or
Yeah, no, I agree
I've gotten
100%.
away from them. You know,
I agree 100%.
I want you to show them this egg.
Oh yeah. This
Tell them what you think this is.
Yeah, this is my dinosaur egg that I found. You can see it's got, hopefully this camera will get this, but you can see it's got a little crack there between where the outer shell would be and the inner part. Now, just to be fair, I have had someone tell me that they don't believe this is an egg, they think it's a stalagmite. But I remain thoroughly convinced that this is a dinosaur egg. And that's the beak of the little dinosaur he was trying to hatch when everything went tits up. But yeah, no, this is one of my favorite little finds out of a creek, is the dinosaur egg.
So maybe we can stay updated on that. I think we're probably going to come to a close here, Eric. I really appreciate your time, man.
Right.
You've had a lot to say.
Well, we're all over the place.
Dude, we might have more. We'll see who else comes on and stuff. I'd love to have you back. Maybe,
Yeah,
have you
absolutely.
help co-host and just hop in. If anyone else wants to hop in and stuff, reach out to me. We'll find a spot. We'll link up. We'll get there, man. We'll make it happen. Moral of it all, don't stop living. Love thy neighbor, man.
Yep.
And just always stay at it. Don't give up, man. Peace, y'all.
Absolutely.